Have you ever been in an argument where you knew something was wrong, but you couldn't put your finger on it? You had the facts, the logic, but the conversation just slipped through your fingers. It's not because your facts were wrong. It's because the conversation wasn't playing by the rules of logic. It was following a different script, a persuasion playbook designed to bypass your rational mind and appeal directly to your fears, your hopes, and your need to belong. These aren't just simple fallacies. They are sophisticated rhetorical moves that can hijack a conversation and, if we're not careful, hijack our thinking. Today, we're not just listing fallacies. We are decoding that playbook. I'll show you 9 of the most effective moves used in religious arguments, and more importantly, how you can respond to them with clarity and confidence. We like to think we're persuaded by facts and evidence, but most of the time, that's not what happens. In conversations about big topics like faith, purpose, and morality, we aren't just exchanging data. We're making moves. People aren't persuaded by facts alone. We're persuaded by plays from a deeply human playbook. Today, I'm going to show you 9 persuasion plays that religious arguments often use. We'll explore why they feel so convincing, and I'll give you the exact lines you can use to respond thoughtfully without escalating the conversation. First up is a move called narrative capture. This is when a gripping, personal story is used to stand in for evidence. You might hear something like, "My grandmother was sick for years, but she turned her life around right after she started praying." Prayer works. This is so effective because our brains are wired for stories, not statistics. A personal story creates an emotional, memorable link between cause and effect, even if there's no logical proof. So, how do you respond without invalidating someone's personal experience? You could say, "That's a powerful story. What specifically changed for her? And is it possible anything else could explain that change?" This acknowledges the story's emotional weight while gently redirecting the focus back to evidence. Next, we have the authority shortcut. This is when you re-ask to trust a claim simply because a leader or a sacred text says it as true. For example, our pastor, who has studied this for 30 years, says this is God's will. So it must be. This is a mental shortcut that saves us the effort of verifying every claim ourselves. While experts are valuable, this play asks for belief based on title alone, not the evidence the authority used. A simple reply is, authorities are helpful guides, but what evidence would make us update this claim, even beyond their say-so? Play number 3 is group calibration. This move presents group consensus as a form of proof. The classic example is, billions of people for 2,000 years have believed this. They can't all be wrong. This taps into our deep-seated need to belong. When we're part of a group that shares a belief, that sense of belonging feels like truth. To counter this, you can say, popularity can certainly indicate value, but it doesn't confirm truth. What kind of independent support exists for this belief? This leads us to existential framing, which positions a belief as necessary for meaning, morality, or safety. The argument often sounds like this: without God, there's no meaning to life. Rejecting this risks eternal suffering. This move is powerful because it makes questioning the belief feel emotionally dangerous. To separate the feeling from the fact, you could try this reply: I take the emotional stake seriously. Can we first look at the evidence for the claim itself, separate from the consequences of not believing it? Then there's narrative replacement, where complex realities are swapped out for a tidy moral story. For instance, explaining a natural disaster by saying, bad things happen because people have sinned. This works because simple, clear-cut stories reduce the anxiety of uncertainty. A good response is, that story explains something emotionally. What evidence links those specific causes to these specific effects? The 6th play is the moral claim shortcut. This happens when a moral judgment is treated as a factual truth. Someone might say, this is morally right, and therefore it must be true for everyone. We often conflate our deeply held values with objective facts. To untangle this, you can say, we can agree on the moral concern here. Let's separate the value claim from the factual claim. What facts support the factual part of this? A very common move is using unfalsifiable softeners. These are claims framed in a way that makes them impossible to test or disprove. For example, God works in mysterious ways. You wouldn't be able to understand his plan. This shields the claim from any form of scrutiny. To handle this, try to focus on what can be known. You could reply, I'm open to mystery, but which parts of this statement could be tested or counted? Let's focus on the testable parts first. This is often paired with reframing the burden of proof. This is the classic move of demanding that others disprove the claim, instead of the claimant providing proof. For example, well, you can't prove God doesn't exist, so he must. This reverses logical responsibility. The correct and simple reply is, positive claims require positive evidence. What evidence is there that supports this claim? Finally, there's the moral authority appeal. This move claims a belief is mandatory because it's the moral thing to do, and that disagreeing makes you a bad person. The argument is, if you disagree with this, you're being immoral. This uses guilt and social pressure to silence critique. A calm response is, morality is definitely important, but disagreement isn't the same as immorality. Let's discuss the reasons behind our different positions. So there you have it, 9 common persuasion plays. It's important to remember these aren't always used with dishonest intent. People often use them to find comfort, to strengthen their sense of belonging, or to make simple sense of a complicated world. The goal isn't to win a fight, it's to foster clearer thinking. The next time you encounter one of these plays, you can use a simple 3-step method. First, acknowledge the feeling behind it. Second, ask a clarifying question using one of the replies we discussed. And third, redirect the conversation toward evidence. It's about moving from a battle of beliefs to a shared exploration of what's true. To help you with this, I've created a printable, one-page cheat sheet with all 9 plays and their quick replies. If you want it, just type cheat sheet in the comments, and I'll pin a link for you to download it for free. These 9 plays, narrative capture, the authority shortcut, existential framing, are not just abstract logical errors. They are deeply human. They are the shortcuts our brains take when confronted with complexity, the shields we raise to protect our sense of identity, and the stories we tell ourselves to find meaning in a chaotic world. And understanding this playbook doesn't give you a weapon. It gives you a lens. It's a lens that allows you to see the structure beneath the surface of an argument. It lets you protect your own mind from manipulation while engaging with others more honestly and compassionately. You can finally separate the person from their argument and the emotional story from the factual claim. When you can spot the play, you change the game. The goal is no longer to win the argument, but to elevate the conversation. And for your challenge, the next time you hear one of these arguments, don't just get frustrated. Come back here and name the play in the comments. Let's see how many we can spot in the wild. This is the kind of critical thinking we explore every week. If you want to keep arming your mind against misinformation and learn more tools for clear thinking, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. It's the best way to ensure you don't miss the next video. Think clearly, and I'll see you in the next one.